Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for holding today's hearing. We're just talking about risk. I want to just dive in because I think there's some real strong counterpoints that we need to make sure are on the record, right? With every new technology, there's benefits, there's risks. How do you manage the benefits? How do you scale down the risks? If I can, I want to come to you, Ms. Rebecca Redding. DeFi shows promise. There's also some risks that needs to be addressed. DeFi hacks cost more than $3.6 billion in 2022, and the number's likely gone up since. Can you talk about what DeFi protocols in the broader community have done to address these risks, and what else may need to be done to target existing vulnerabilities? Because I think it's really important to talk. Sure, there's risk out here, but how are we working to downsize that risk?
Great. Thank you very much for your question, Congressman. And I think we can all agree that any of the hacks or scams or any of the risks should be mitigated as thoroughly as possible. Say that the three primary risks in DeFi are cyber risk, system management risk, as well as usage risk. There are current efforts to combat many of those. As I mentioned previously, the Security Alliance looks at all of those types of risks, both what's happening from an illicit finance perspective, but also training developers how to build safer ecosystems in general, as well as how to put in place appropriate system management controls to ensure that there aren't these centralized places of data or other areas of vulnerabilities. So that's one of the primary places that it happens, but there is also significant public-private partnership with law enforcement going on in the industry to ensure that a lot of these risks are addressed.
That's helpful. Let me jump over to you, if I can, Mr. Bryan Steil. In written testimony, you noted that many DeFi participants are having trouble navigating the jargon and code associated with DeFi projects. On top of that, you argue that many projects fail to present fulsome information. What can market participants do to ensure counterparty communications and disclosure are better understood?
Sure, I think, and thank you for the question, Congressman. I think you'll see a lot of the most notable projects in DeFi have developed, kind of almost as custom, disclosing massive amounts of information, not only on tokenomics with regard to each project, but also at a very granular level, discussing and explaining in plain English how these different technologies work, specifically different smart contract functions if one or more persons is interacting with a contract, exactly what you will be engaging in by interacting with those protocols.
So what should regulators be looking at and considering with respect to rules required around disclosures or other communications?
I think there has to be a lot of interaction with the industry. Probably the most notable or largest projects that have a presence and are actually coming here to engage in Washington would be a good starting point. And then you look at, I think I highlighted in my written testimony what I, as a user and an investor in this space, would expect to see. And I think, frankly, it's a matter of making the information as simple and as clear as possible for the users who are using it, so that you do away as best as possible with the lack of confusion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you, if I can, Ms. Rebecca Redding. Shifting gears here, because I think it's worthwhile talking about use cases I know Polygon Labs maintains a database of DeFi use cases. Commissioner Peirce wrote the following: stagnation, centralization, expatriation, and extinction are the words of this release. Today's commission treats its basic approach to exchange regulation as something that must not, indeed cannot, be altered to allow room for new technologies or for new ways of doing business. Strong words from a sitting SEC commissioner. But I think what Commissioner Peirce is actually touching on is a point that we've made many times at this committee, that laws and regulations need to evolve to accommodate innovation safely. So we're talking about the risk up front. We know that there's use cases out there. Can you just comment on some of the use cases that you're seeing that American families and workers would benefit from this?
Thank you very much for your question, Congressman. And the use case aspect is something that really brought me to Web3. I talked about some of the non-financial use cases, but others that abound in the DeFi context, as we're talking about today, is faster payments, which allow for humanitarian aid transfer from the United States to those on the front lines in Venezuela. There are health workers there who've needed it. There's been also payments in the humanitarian aid context for the efforts for Ukraine, both from people in the United States as well as outside this country as well. And some of the other types of efficiencies that we've seen have been for the exchanging of assets and the like.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your testimony, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.